Hey, welcome back to the Million Dollar Body Podcast, the intersection of physical success, time, freedom, and adventure. I'm Nate Palmer. Today, I'm joined by a very special guest. I'm here with Scott Ferguson. Scott is a veteran of the U.S. Navy. He's got multiple deployments to Iraq, Afghanistan, Somalia, and he's an active podcaster and a real estate investor. He loves to give, lives intentional. Scott loves the beach and jiu-jitsu, obviously. And he's the host of the Time to Shine Today podcast. Scott's mission in life is not have anyone feel like they don't have anyone. Scott's story is highly sought after by people in the entertainment business, and he'd said no to them. And basically what that meant is that now that when he's going on his podcast, The Time to Shine Today, he's given out these amazing nuggets of information based off of his story, based off these expert guests. And it is high quality, like very, very, very like great way to level up your own life and your own game. So make sure you check out his podcast. Scott, it is so good to have you on here. Thank you for joining me.
Mr. Palmer, what's shaking, buddy?
I'm just hanging out.
Thank you so much for having me on, bro. This is amazing. Amazing.
So can you tell me a little bit about like, where did the idea to like, why is like, whenever I get an email from you, it always says at the very end, remember the troops and always level up.
Sure.
Can you tell me like, why is that your sign off?
Well, I was born in 1972. So I just turned 50 a couple weeks ago. It was like during the Vietnam War, and my father was an American GI that knocked up my mother. And so he bailed. So she gave birth, but mixed breed males were frowned upon during that time by the Philippine government because I'm 6'1", I'm 260, I'm pretty well put together. You get tens of thousands of these male babies growing up that could physically take over the country. That was their thought at the time. So they were shipping babies to the Spain because Spain controls, the Philippine Islands. Well, ended up getting adopted by a couple, like literally at birth. They took him from my biological mother and then went to the United States. They couldn't adopt me for personal reasons, where the woman who's going to be my adoptive mother's father died and she went schizophrenic. So I ended up kind of having a little orphanage for a little bit. And then I got adopted by a family in Detroit, Michigan, who I call my mother and father. But they had substance abuse issues. My father was a Vietnam vet and he had some hard times. So I ended up getting raised by a really stern, hard Marine. So I have this like pass around mentality. I'm afraid of abandonment. I'm afraid of, again, we don't want to have anyone to feel like they have no one, right? So as we move forward in life, I found no community in work or anything. But I was like the military. So I went in the military and I did some tours overseas. I have friends to this day that I'm super tight with. We ended up, that's why I always kind of sign off, remember the troops, because I'm a huge supporter of the troops. I do a lot with PTSD, coaching, helping people kind of level up through visionary mindset with that. And then basically leveling up, man, is like, when I was in the military, everyone would be playing Sega. Nowadays it's all this stuff. This is Sega back then. Like, come on, Ferg, come on, let's play. And they're like, let's level up. And I'm like, you losers, why don't you sit here and level up? I'm going to go hit the gym. I'm going to go for a rock run. I'm going to go do something. And then it just kind of stuck with me as a joke. But then I was like, before every lift I do, before any jits match, before wrestling match, whatever, I'm like, let's level up. And so that's kind of it started as a joke, but that's why I kind of sign off with, remember the troops, because I found the family there, and they're heroes, dude. You know what I'm saying? Especially in today's day and age, we're going to see what we're made of, right? And then just, level up. And I also add a little love your guts, man, because I love it.
That's right. You do say love your guts.
Love it.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, dude. And a little kicker to this is that I got a mole on the back of my right calf and it looked weird, right? And so I hired a private investigator who happened to be my good friend, calls me. He's like, you sitting down? I'm like, yeah. Well, long story short is I have a twin sister that my biological mom kept. And so she lives in Jersey. They ended up migrating over from the Philippines to Jersey. So I got to meet them in 2004. So that was pretty cool, man. So we're not super close, but we're close enough to where I keep in touch with the full sibling, and I have a bunch of half siblings too.
How did you ascertain that and like hire a private investigator over a mole? I would have probably like gone to like a skin doctor.
You know what? I did go to a skin doctor, and the first question they ask is, does your family have any history of this? I'm like, dude, I don't know. I never cared to know when I was younger. I cared about surviving, not so much thriving. It was like, It was like kind of like, okay, I'm going from place to place. I'm being raised by awesome people, but just in their certain old school ways. And so I just like, yeah, I'm just gonna call Stevie up. And Stevie's like, hey man, this is what I found. And I was like, whoa, the private investigator. And I was like, oh, this is cool. So I ended up going to Jersey and hanging out with them. And we don't, again, we're not tight, but we're good. It's good.
That's cool. It's cool, man. And thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, but
I love what you said about the leveling up too. Like not necessarily just being like this platitude or something you just throw around,
right.
but like a legitimate like way of like a lens, that the way you look at life through before a lift, before a match, before a podcast. It's like, how am I leveling up here?
Right.
I'm a big fan of taking that like that. What's that 1% better? How do we get 1% better every single day? And I think that's like the same thing. Those incremental improvements over time, you look back and you're like, holy shit, look how far we've come.
Right. And that goes to my saying, which you'll probably bring up today, inch by inch, it's a cinch, right? By the yard, it's hard. So it's like everybody wants to level up to the top rung. And bro, you don't get there. You got dues to pay, but if you stay the course, anything's attainable, man. So that's where it all kind of backs in. Everything ties together with level up, man. It just does. It all comes back. And any speaking engagement that I have, anything is all about leveling up. And I start every single one of my engagements, Nate, with I'm on a rebounder on stage, right? And so you're going up and down, and I'm telling them the benefits of what I'm doing to my lymph system while I'm doing this, and I got their heads going like this. So they're already starting in agreement, and we level up from there, right? So I find ways to build life around leveling up, man. Absolutely.
The idea of you being on a rebounder, getting people to nod and agree with you, like that's so next level. You've already done it.
It's funny because I come out there and I'm just this monster guy, and I'm like, and it's just fun. And I got it all from TR, from Tony Robbins, because he rebounds before every speech, but he does it backstage. I take that thing out on the stage, and just have some fun with it. So it's just, and again, it's just my personality. I love people. It's fun to love. It just is. It doesn't mean you have to be in love with somebody, but man, it's like, I love what you put out in this freaking book right here, man, that like changed my visions on a lot of different things, what I do in the morning. You're putting it out there, and all the other people that I'm so grateful to interview, is awesome. And you have someone like you that sends me this right here that is, a handwritten note from you to me, bro. You're full of love too. You just, you show it in all your different ways, man. And that's the people that I like to align with. That's like the people I like to refer people to, and just have some fun with life, right?
And like, I mean, I appreciate you bringing that out, but like, I was on your podcast and you didn't really know me. You invited me on the show to like talk about fitness and nutrition. You had read my book. You had asked all these amazing, like in-depth questions. Like we had an amazing discussion about things that were not a protein shakes or like pec fiber muscles, we had like, you came in with such like an intense level of preparation and like such a high level of like existing knowledge that like, it's obvious that you care. It's obvious that you care, and you bring that to every single thing I've seen you do, your email list, the podcast you do, the interviews, like you care immensely about not just what you're doing and leveling up, but about the people around you. And I think that's like that gets lost, right? Because the level up sometimes is like, how do I level myself up?
Yeah.
But I think we can do it,
Absolutely, man.
You want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, go together, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna have to write that one down when I re-listen to this. That's amazing. And you are an anomaly, Palmer. Let me tell you why. It's like I take the school of Larry King when it comes to interviewing people. I generally don't read anything. I read anything after the fact, but it happened to be a crazy, rainy, hurricane-y weekend before I interviewed you, bro. And I just picked it up. It was literally sitting at my desk. I'm like, $1 Million Body Method. Okay. And I have it earmarked, bro. I have notes throughout the whole thing. I read it in like freaking 3.5 hours, dude. I don't do that. I never read anyone's before, but you leveled me up so much that it was like, I got to work on ways, which we've talked about, collaborate. We will, to be able to, benefit off of the $1 Million Body Method. Right. And it's huge. So you're an anomaly on that. Usually I don't read. I do read all my guest books, but it's usually after the podcast, right? It is done. And like the questions thank you for complimenting the questions. The question I ask is, we're building a tribe here at Time to Shine today, where we will be like the Angie's list of coaching therapists, consultants in the next 60 months, the next 5 years, because I'm building that out. So the podcasts are done in an interview format that we're not just asking you about what you do, but we also, because we ask you, what's your definition of a life well lived, or getting that DeLorean with Marty McFly and go back to your 22-year-old self. Because when we send that podcast interview over to somebody that we want to refer you as their coach or consultant, I wanted it to be real and not just about the business. I wanted them to know Nate, the personality, the dude that's underneath the bed with a freaking bread knife in his hand, ready to get after. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, that's where we want to pull that human nature out on every show. And we do it in under 30 minutes. And that's the biggest thing.
I mean, it's not like you say that like it's easy, but like you've obviously been working at this and leveling up for quite a long amount of time to be able to ask those questions, give that information, and go deep in that time period. So I just wanted to say, like, dude,
that's a huge, thank you so much, Nate.
And then
that's
also,
exactly
like anyone who's listening right now, like you got to check out this podcast. If you like podcasts around mindset, coaching, any type of like that growth and just leveling up, you're going to want to get on his email list. You're going to want to subscribe to the podcast. It's incredible.
Thanks.
I want to go back to what you said earlier about kind of like one of your key principles is inch by inch is a cinch, by the yard it's hard. Now you coach a lot of high performing, what I would kind of consider like type A, like hard charging individuals,
right? Who
a lot of those people want it. Like today's good. Yesterday be even better though, to have my level up. How do you communicate and convince someone that like, hey, consistency is the superpower, inch by inch it's a cinch? Like, how do you like get that across?
These people come out in their days. A lot of the people that I end up coaching are people that have went through a rehab, and it doesn't have to be drugs and alcohol. It could be burnout, could be family, could be domestic, right? And they come out and they're ready to get back into that work world, but they hire me for a couple months to get their mindset visionary ready for the breakthrough, because they've handled all the stuff through therapy of what's wrong with them. I take them forward. So to go forward, you have to have like tiny daily wins and iterations that stack into outcomes, right? And that's kind of where I start with the client, and it's done through super powerful questioning. That's one thing. God gave me 2 ears and a mouth for one reason, and that's something that my mom and dad reminded me of a lot when I was a kid, bro. So it's like, I actually can ask the questions that I feel that the way that's going to be able to help somebody break through. But everything has got to be broken down. The whole cliche of how to eat an elephant one bite at a time. It's like anything that you want to do. If you're passionate about it, you'll break it down, you'll white paper it, and just break it down into like little tiny daily wins. And that's what I do with even the high-end alpha people, man. I'm like, listen, I'm not here to challenge you. You forgot more about your business than I ever will. But I also have been through some crazy times in life that have helped me learn different difficult lessons to level up through it. And I'm not here to share my story with you. I'm here to ask you the questions that I ended up having to ask myself to get me going, and my coaches that helped me through the way as well.
So basically, rather than telling, you're just asking, and you're letting people come to their own conclusions based on the powerful questions.
Right. Exactly. And they do. And it's awesome, because they'll be like, what are you looking at? Because I'm actually looking at you right now instead of the camera. Right. So I'll be looking at it, and I'm looking for that light bulb to kind of go off. And then we'll just kind of feed off of that. Sometimes they'll ask me to put my consultant hat on, and I do it because like, I'm so dumb to their business. Like, I have my business. I know what I'm doing with mine, but I don't know what the CEO of Black & Decker is going through. And so he'll be like, put your consultant hat on. And I ask permission to do it. And I do it. And they look at me like I'm an idiot. That's exactly where I want them. I want that light bulb to say, dude, you have no business on the consulting side, but you've got me to open up through the coaching side. And that's where their light bulb goes off, because their ego got stroked because I don't know what I'm talking about. And, we pull it through. And again, it just all goes back to that, baby steps, inch by inch. And that's how they figure it out. And it's kept me on with a lot of clients longer, because my goal with every client I have is to be fired in 8 weeks, that have coming. I want them to vision. I want them to get that breakthrough. And then we just do refresher, throughout the rest of the year. I want to help as many people as I can, and plant as many trees as I can. But a lot of them bring me out to their companies. I'm blessed enough to kind of speak to their companies, and other parts of their companies will hire me. And it's kind of cool. I don't want to make this about me, but I use inch by inch to cinch through everything that I do in life, man.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of making it about you right now. Like the
Thanks.
title of this episode is going to be Scott Ferguson, the myth, the man, the legend. So it's all you, baby.
Nate, I love you, dude. Seriously, man.
Dude, so like, tell me a little bit about like, when did this click for you? What was that? What was the event or the thing where you were
Thank you for asking.
I've been trying to do the like two biggest steps, or what did that look like?
Bro, thank you for asking, man. And so I got into real estate when I got out of the military, and this is the late 1990s. And so we kind of started printing money with real estate at that time. Remember, if you said you had a job and then you had a heartbeat and you could sign your name, you get a loan, right? So we ended up, as a realtor, I sold multi-millions of properties. And then in 2009, and all my advisors, I was lucky enough to have Jewish advisors, and I don't say that in a derogatory way, but these are people that ran all the banks and all the big companies in Michigan. I happened to be personal training them at a studio, and they would take me under their wing, and they told me, watch your money, watch your money. That whole Gordon Gekko thing with like, man, money is like a jealous woman. It's like, pay attention or it's gone. And I would just like, I would make so much money, and then like the theory of relativity would come in, where you make money, everyone's your relative, everyone wants a piece of it. You're at like no problem handing it out. But then my douchebaggery came out, and I would show up to family reunions in like $100,000 cars and look like an idiot and trying to show off stuff. And again, my advisors, watch your money, and I didn't. So 2009 came, and it hammered me bad, to the point that my dad always taught me, pay your freaking bills. So I would always pay my bills, and I came from having 7 figures in an account to like $700. Like, and it's not even like a, Dwayne the Rock Johnson, $7 per dime. Like, literally, dude, I had barely any money. And my little brother took his life during that time. And that's why, like, people that come on Time to Shine today, they donate to the suicide life prevention line, like you did. And I thank you for it. And so that was literally a real estate client came up and said, listen, we need you to do a short sale on our house, meaning like they owe more than it's worth. And so you sell it for what it's worth, and you negotiate with the bank to wipe out the debt. So while they did it, they moved to Florida. I was homeless with my Rhodesian Ridgeback, man. And I didn't mean homeless. I was living in a car because I was too proud to go to the family that I was douchebaggery to. And my friends always looked up to me, so I didn't want to show up on their step and be like, dude, I need your help. So literally, I lived in this house when they moved to Florida, squatted in it, sold it. And while I was squatting in it, I went to the library, and this guy just was talking about a book called The Traveler's Gift by Andy Andrews. And I read it, and it's just about this dude whose daughter's about to die. He lost his job, so he decides to end it. And he wakes up in 1945 and give him Hell Harry Truman's office, the day before he dropped the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And he talks about responsibility. He goes to King Tut and gets wisdom. He goes to Anne Frank and gets happiness. And on down, Abraham Lincoln to make decisions. And he meets all these people, and that book changed my life, dude. Like right then and there, I'm like, dude, I'm not serving anybody. I was a vulture. I was preying on other people's misfortunes in real estate, where I turned that into where you give until it hurts so good. And you'll never run out of friends doing that. You'll never run out of money. You'll never run out of anything. And things just started happening for me, man. That was I didn't listen. I was an idiot. So that was where, Time to Shine Today was born in 2009 during that time.
Wow. That's powerful. I also I think that it's awesome that you as a personal trainer, had that board of advisors in your life.
Dude.
like people sleep on personal trainers, that it's a thing you don't necessarily need a college degree to get it. You can get a certification pretty easily. It's one of the greatest jobs of all time.
Awesome. Yeah.
If you get to hang out with people you have no business hanging out with. When I worked in Seattle, I had clients who were all kinds of different industries. I used to say hey, bring me the world's problems. With these people in my corner, I could solve any of them. Everyone is just so much smarter than me. So
right.
That's really cool.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And it was just, I would train it. And luckily it was in a pretty high influential part of Oakland County, Michigan. Right. Mm-hmm. And I was able to they would come to me because they'd interview different trainers at the place. And they're like, we like you. They like my military. They like that I'm loud, I'm baritone, I'm like in their face. And those are the people that I wanted to train. Like there's a different horse for every course. Like I couldn't take a meek older lady that I could be that guy and no problem. But my energy
costs you.
Right. I would be doing her a disservice because I'd rather give her to somebody else that is a better horse for the course, for lack of a better term. It's like we're doing a Time to Shine today. Like someone comes to me about about body and meshing the body and mindset, I'm not the guy anymore. I could do it, but it'd be a disservice not to send them to you. Right. So it's just like, we want to give until it hurts so good, man.
Totally. I'm like, I feel like that's a great lesson too, right? Where it's like not all about just like this scarcity mentality. I got to have it. I got to train Aunt Joan. I got to train this person. Yeah. I used to just take everyone to train everybody. But now it's like, hey, someone comes to me and they're like, hey, I'm postpartum. I'm trying to do like a paleo diet. I'm like, hey, I'm probably not your guy. I got some, like, there's someone else. I'm an emotional eater. I need some help with that. Not your guy.
Dude. You know, yeah. So. And look at the people you've interviewed on your show too. I mean, a lot of those people could level up those people. And it's nice to build a community like that with people. I mean, you and I was born right before COVID here, 2019 is when I launched my show. But bro, I know more people now than I ever could. I haven't met you in the flesh, but I feel like we've been buddies for like 12, 15 years, right? And when we do meet, we'll have a great time. And that's what COVID did. And it just opened up a huge, I don't know why I went this route, but I'm so blessed for the podcast and what I'm able to do and helping people out, man.
Yeah. I mean, you're 100% right. And I like that you're looking at the positive side of things. It's so easy to be like, oh yeah, COVID did this and COVID did that and blah, blah, blah. And like, but there's also like some cool stuff that came out of it, like the ability to connect with people. The fact that we're talking on a video call right now, like this is the future. Dude. We're living in this. And this is not even like on our radar, this is so sick. So
it's awesome.
Okay. I want to jump in. You had a couple other principles that I think you really live by. And we talked about them a lot on the Time to Shine Today podcast. But one of the big ones is take responsibility for your actions. Take responsibility.
Right.
Like why is that so important to you? And where did that come from in your own life? Where did you see people like examples of like that happening at a high level and you'd be like, okay, I appreciate that, or like not happening?
Right.
Like, that's the worst.
Well, I mean, so many people have a foot in the future and a foot in the past, and they pee all over the present, right? And they're just there, and they get stuck there a lot because they're sitting in this beautiful car, this vehicle of a body that they have, and they have a huge windshield in front of them that they can see and go towards, and yet they live in that little rearview mirror, man, right? I believe the past is a great place to visit, but it's not a place I want to live. So that's where we really want to take our the people that I work with to move them forward, and it can only start by taking responsibility for wherever you're at. It's the only way. You start responding. You look at any business parable with the hero's journey. The first thing that any of the heroes get taught is responsibility. That's it. And one of my mentors, Rod Harrison, said, listen, man, responsibility is the ability to respond. That's all it is. It's rooted right in the freaking word, man. So I can tell people that, and everyone that I coach, and be like, listen, responsibility is the ability to respond. So no matter where you're at in life, respond, don't react. We're about responding and make educated, logical decisions on where you're at, but take responsibility for it because you're responding to it. So that's about my beef is with people, for lack of a better term, again, that, they don't own stuff. They'll sit there and pee all over the present when really there's so much good that they could pull forward and so much to look forward to. I mean, yeah, God could take me in a car wreck or a plane crash, later today when I'm wheels up, right? But like, that's his plan, man. It's like not mine. I mean, I'm going to plan to live to 110 years old, bro. And the only way I can do that is take responsibility for what I put in my body every day, thanks to you and my morning routine too, with the movement, the 32 ounces, and dude, that is become etched, bro. So yeah, that's what it is. It's like you have to take responsibility, bro. Hopefully that's the best explanation I can really tell for it.
Yeah, I love that. And so I'm going to kind of follow this up with a similar question from last time, but personally, like I've really felt like I see this in the juxtaposition between like when I was first kind of entering the workforce. I was like 18 years old. I was working at a retail store for pools and patio. Right. And I had two bosses. One's name was Dave, and one's name was, I don't even remember what his name was, Dan. And Dan would sit at his desk with his feet up on the table. No joke. Legs crossed, his hair slicked back. He called everybody Bubba. I didn't like that.
Right.
That's a red flag right there. And he would just like, he would blame, he would push people off. He would never take responsibility for anything in the store that happened. It was always somebody else's fault. Right. And like being under someone like that, like it sucks, and you see it, and you always feel like, oh, am I going to get blamed for this next thing? And
right.
And there was Dave, and Dave was always there with us. He was always in the back. He's pulling stuff off trucks. He was working his ass off. He was always leading from the front. And I think about taking responsibility. I always think about Dave because he was the guy who was willing to pick up the slack even when it wasn't his job.
Right.
When it didn't fall on his lap, he would still step in front of it and be like, no, I got that. Like, that was my bad. I'll
servant leader, right?
100%.
Yeah.
So like, that's what always comes to mind for me when we talk about like taking responsibility and ownership.
Mm-hmm.
So like, how do you take that idea of someone who's, like you said, like 1 foot in the past, 1 foot in the present, or 1 foot in the future, pissing all over the present?
Yeah.
How do you take someone like that, who's a coaching client of yours, ostensibly successful in the like the areas of their life that they're working on?
Sure.
How do you help educate them and show them like the mirror?
It'll go through questions, and I have like a kind of a 6-route question formula that I use. And if I'm seeing high alpha ego, or what I like to call, because like I break it into seasons. Really, it's, spring, summer, fall, winter, and the different personalities. If I can get a winter personality, really cold, dark, like just to the point, then I have the questions to really ask them to help them get into, without being a therapist, helping them dig into their situation right now on their own. And then I can take that, give them feedback with follow-up, more powerful questions. It's like, I've dumbed down coaching. Thank God to my coaches that taught me how to coach. I've dumbed it down so much that it's now it's just a conversation. So I can't really give you an exact formula. I just have a pathway to get to where I know I'm going to go, depending on their season that they're in. If they're up and springy and they're like ready to go, then I have that. If they're cool as a cucumber during the summer, I'm ready to go. If they're fall and laid back people, I'm ready to go. So I can take them, like the fall and laid back people, you want to move them a little bit into winter, a little bit into summer. And I have the questions to be able to get them there to help them break that ice, get them out of their season in a sense.
You feel like it's more of a show, actually holding up a mirror and being like, hey, here's the reality of it? Or is it like intentionally like being blind to the idea of like, hey, these circumstances that I'm currently enmeshed in, this is my responsibility, this is my doing? Or is it something else?
You nailed it on the head. It's like, if I am doing my job, I'm asking the questions that they're going to be like, wait a minute, it's all about responsibility. Our first session, even if the start of our coaching session, it's always, I give them the whole, coaching credo of like, anything you say is, confidential, whatever. But then I ask, what are we talking about today? Like, I don't have set agendas with any of my clients, and it's different for them. Like, I have my notes on them, what we talked about, and the one subject, Nate, could go 3-4 weeks, but I leave it up to them on what we're talking about. And then I can dig into where we're at. Because some people, it might take them 3 or 4 sessions with me to really get to the point where they feel like they can take that inch by inch step, even though they've been taking it the whole time for the past 3 or 4 sessions. They just don't see it yet.
You give them the real, like, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it pretty much, because it's not like you, people pay you good money, right, to train them and get their mindset right. The same with me. It's like, I don't wait on them and say, they're taking action, first of all, by hiring me. So that then I remind them of that all the time. It's like, I'm a believer, I'm a Christian. Okay. A lot of people will say, oh, I'm waiting on God. I'm like, dude, God's waiting on you, bro. Take action, and just see what's out there. And that's what the people that come to me, I'm blessed because they do have the action. And the rest of the people out there that don't know what they want, I do have a pro bono that I work with those people as well. Like, I could go to a high school right after this interview and talk to 15 kids about financial education. And so I can hit it from all different levels. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. To help people level up. So
I like it. So you're not just like, hey, guess what we're talking about today? You're a piece of shit and you need to take responsibility. Deal with it.
No, dude. No, they tell me what we're talking about today. Sometimes they'll text and you'll be like, hey, Fergie, man, I need to talk about my morning routine or whatever, right? Something you'd never text me about, but like, you'd be like, yeah, all right, cool. So then when we get on our Zoom or in our face-to-face, we're like, hey, what's going on with your morning routine? So I'll know, but I leave it up to them to tell me what they need help with, or not help with. They need to have a discussion about. That's all my coaching is level up, man.
Very cool. So one of the other things that I absolutely love about you, man, is that one of your other principles in life is don't take life too seriously. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Where did that come from? Why is that one of your kind of your core, your guiding markers?
The year 2000, Ryan Reynolds, who's a big sex symbol, huge movie star right now, was in a movie called Van Wilder. And it's still one of the funniest, raunchiest movies that I love, because I was like 28 at the time. And I'm like, dude, this is a funny movie. But he says that in there. He's like, man, listen, he's like, someone I knew years ago said, don't take life too seriously. You'll never make it out alive. Which, breaking that down, what part of that is not true? It's, you can decide that life is as hard as you want life to be. That's the truth. And that's the bottom line. Where I'm not saying that I don't like hold myself to high standards and whatnot, but I'm not going to let somebody anymore that's cut me off in traffic or trying to outcompete me in business, whatnot, that's going to, pee on my present, man. They're going to, I'm just going to kind of shake things off. I'm not self-deprecating, but I laugh at myself a lot. And I only hang out with people that are the same. I hang out with people in a tribe that I hang out with. That people like you and I could razz each other, and you're not going to be, kind of up butt hurt about it.
I might cry a little bit.
Yeah, and I'll cry with you, but then we'll laugh about it. So that's where you just can't. It's if you start taking life seriously, then you would forgot more about this than I'll ever know with like what's happening within your body when you stretch yourself with the cortisol release and everything else. It's like, man, are you really leveling up to your peak ability? Because if you're not, I think that you're sinning. And I'm not saying sinning in a religious connotation. I'm saying like, listen, the Greek root of the word sin is sinny, which means missing the mark. That's all sin means, dude. You're missing the mark that day. You're missing the mark in your life. So when I can pull out of a client, I'm like, dude, you're sinning today. And they're like, what? And then they have that like little thing attached to sin of how bad it is with the religious connotation they're brought up with. But they're like, listen, bro, you're just missing the mark on this. Let's get you to that mark. Let's hit the bullseye. Right. So, but the only way you can do that is you can't take yourself so seriously. Or take life so seriously. It's not a joke, but it also should not be lived with like, estrogen in men's bodies and cortisol and everything else, like just blowing up the nervous system. Right. And that's how I feel. It's like you gotta, there's physiological things that happen that as well as psychological things that if you take life way too seriously.
Yeah, there's that stress response for sure.
Yeah.
So, but I feel like this is human nature, right? Like someone cuts you off in traffic, your boss yells at you, you get an email from someone. I got a mean comment on social media the other day, bro. And like, I let it bother me for like 4 or 5 hours. Like it lived in my brain rent free for like the full day. And I just didn't shake it. Like, what do you do in a situation like that when you get that, like just that one of those like little things that creeps up and you're like, oh, that's annoying. How do you move past that? I don't know. Can you still hear me?
Okay. So the plan that I use, so if like the internet goes out or something like that, let's just say hypothetically, people, this is 100% on me today, folks. That you can only take care of what you can take care of. That's the bottom line. You can't, like a lot of people, and I'm guilty of going to bed at night and having things on my mind that shouldn't be there because I can't do anything about it in that moment. But I've gotten better through continuous exercising of my, not taking things so seriously and only handle the things that you can really get a grip on and execute at the time. Because if you're given 6 problems, 2 of them probably aren't problems. 2 of them, you can't really do anything else. And the other 2 are probably really easy to fix, and that's how with my coaching, we really break down to the root of the problem without going into therapy, again, because I'm not a past and that I don't try to do that. I'll drag forward what we can do that will serve the client and also myself as I go along.
Gotcha. So focus on what you can control. And then like when you do get that mean email or mean comment on social media, you just realize that like, hey, someone else's opinion of you is none of your business and it doesn't really matter what they think.
And it's funny you say that. And thank you for reminding me is that I make two New Year's resolutions since 2009 every year. And it's to make someone smile every single day, no matter what, you make them smile. And two, unless I've hurt you, disrespected you, anything bad to you, I give 0 F's about what you think about me. I just don't. I don't care, because I can't let that energy go there. So I'll get a mean post, whatnot, but I'll also be the guy to reach out to them personally and be like, hey man, is there anything that I can do, to not change your mind, but to explain further? Or are you just like I don't say this, but are you just like a troll that's out looking for attention? So, because that's 99.5% of the people really are. Because if someone really has a problem with you, Nate, and they're an upstanding person, won't they DM you, so, and be like, hey, Nate, I just don't really believe in this, and maybe you can help me understand it. Instead, they're looking for attention because, community through COVID and community through everything else really got shut down for a while, and it's like people are hiding and being keyboard warriors and stuff like that. Or even just on the speakers circuit and stuff. I'm the guy there for every single person that goes out on stage, high-fiving them and ready to go. Trust me, I want to throw up just about as bad as they do because of the nerves, but I'm going to be there for them no matter what. These are guys that I compete for speaking gigs with. Like, Fergie, you're crazy. I'm like, dude, nothing can happen in competition. Everything's through creativity. I'm picking up a step every time I hear you speak, and that's what it is. Baryshnikov said it best, everywhere he'd go in ballet, he'd learn to pick up a step to add to his repertoire. So again, the only way you can do that is don't take things seriously. Seriously, level up, man. Yeah.
I like to think about like, well, how many times have you thought about Betty White today? This is the first time?
Yeah, this is the first time. Yeah.
Betty White lived to be almost 100 years old, had a historic career, helped tons of people and animals. And this is the first time you're thinking about her?
Right.
That's
like great analogy.
Who am I compared to Betty White?
Right.
Like, who knows about me? No one knows about me.
Right.
No one thought about Betty White today when she passed 2 months ago.
Right. Yeah.
No one's going to give a shit when I'm dead.
Right.
Nobody's going to think about me. No one's going to remember.
Yep. You'll have that handful of people that, that they're there, but you're right. It's like,
maybe on my birthday, right?
Yeah. Your birthday, your death anniversary or whatnot. But I want, I asked you, that dash that's, planted in the middle of your life date and death date on your tombstone is that I want to be remembered as my dash being, somebody that worked to plant as many trees that he would never sit in the shade of and not really care too much, except that the tree kept growing. I used to chase the fame, and that was back in my douchebaggery days, because I was like the Detroit Tigers realtor, the Red Wings realtor and stuff like that. And it was all cool. But it's like, again, that's all past and gone by the way. And it was part of my journey. Now I want to help as many people level up to the point where, that they're like, put it this way, man, like the more you mentor, the more immortal you become, right? In more people's minds. Right. So it's like if I help somebody and they help somebody, it'll all come back to me. Although like everything's regurgitated, right? So everything that Tony Robbins says is from Jim Rohn, but just in Tony Robbins' voice. Jim Rohn regurgitated Earl Nightingale, Wallace, all the way back to like, as far as, history goes, to Seneca, Aristotle, those Stoics and stuff like this. So everything is regurgitated, pulled forward. And that's, the name of my book that will be coming out. Like you'll have a chapter and it's like regurgitating all my podcast guests of the stuff that I got from them. So it's all about progress over perfection and leveling up, brother.
We talked today about progress over perfection. Inch by inch is the cinch. By the yard, it's hard. We talked about not taking life too seriously. We talked about taking personal responsibility today. Scott, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your expertise with us on the podcast. I really appreciate it. I appreciate your time.
Amen.
And man, how can people connect with you? Where can they go to find out more about you besides the podcast, which I've been pushing?
Yeah, you've been pushing it also, man. You know what? Just timetoshinetoday.com. We're opening up a pretty awesome coaching module that's going on there. It's not done yet, but really we're podcast based. So if there's anybody that's out there that's listening to me blabber and my internet messing up, that want to have an interview on Time to Shine Today, the first person on this will be able to grant them an interview and then, get them quite a bit of exposure to their platforms as well, man.
Huge. So if you're an expert, you have something to bring, you're to help out people level up, and you want to be featured on an incredible podcast that's reaching like what, 25,000 people per episode?
Yeah,
like,
we're right around 25 large per episode right now. Yeah. And then, we're working on the Phoenix radio station. I think it's 99.3 for you. Or is it Phoenix? Donnie's here because he's still scrambling with our internet, but I believe it's 993. Like we're blessed to be sponsored by some big sponsors on the show. So we take the sponsorship money and buy airtime on the FM or AM dial for talk radio. And also, my XM radio, show as well. So you'll get a lot of play on different platforms.
Oh yeah, that's an amazing offer. All right, so check it out, timetoshinetoday.com. I'll put that in the show notes as well. Scott, thank you so much for being here. This was a ton of fun. You have an amazing day, and remember, always level up.
Appreciate you, brother. Thanks so much.
Guts, bro.
Love you too, brother.